So what do we do to manage our mood? This anger that threatens to control us, to hurt our relationships with others. Well, we're going to take a look at some answers from a guy named James. Now, James was actually the brother of Jesus, so I think it's safe to say he had a pretty up close and personal look at the way Jesus lived his life. Here, James was writing to some of the Christians in his time who were spread out all over the region. He was encouraging them to live out what they learned about following Jesus from Jesus himself. And in this particular passage, he addressed something I think that can help us understand how to handle our anger. So take a look. James started by saying that we can show we are wise in the way that we live, the way that we treat other people, and the way that we view other people, the things that we do, and demonstrate our faith in God. Those things will be a sign of the wisdom that's living in our hearts. But if we have things like bitterness, envy, selfishness, or anger in our hearts, then our actions, our words, and our responses will show that instead. Any place in our heart that's filled with those things, well, that's where James said we'll find disorder and evil. And if we allow those things to exist in our hearts, they will come out in our lives in the form of anger that can have the potential to cause a lot of hurt, both to us and to others. Anger itself isn't bad, but what we do with it could be. See, when it comes to anger, we all have a choice. We're always going to have reasons to get angry, but when you're faced with anger, we can control how we handle and respond to it. We get to decide if we'll let it be the boss of us. See, anger doesn't have to be the boss of you. You may be thinking, well, that's easy for you to say, but when I feel angry, that's all I feel. And it feels good to let it out. Listen, I get that anger, and it's my downfall as well. I cannot count all the times anger has overwhelmed me and taken control, as we fall into the trap of letting our anger control us. But I don't think that there are ways that we can manage all of these big feelings and not let them be the boss of us. Here's where I think we can start. Let's take a step back. When we're angry, we usually feel that we have to react or respond to every single thing that makes us mad. But the reality is, we don't. We can choose to take a step back. We can decide to not yell, not to text, not to cut someone out. We can take control and not let anger be the boss of us, and that's a big step. The next thing that we can do, we can be honest. Like, where is this really coming from? What is in us that's setting us off, making us angry? Maybe it's jealousy, fear, or disappointment. Maybe it's grief, pain, or frustration. Those not so great desires and expectations that James talked about, try to name them. The next time you find yourself angry, pause and try to think about why you're angry. What got you to this point? And then talk to God about the reasons for your anger. Invite him into whatever you're feeling. We don't need to keep our anger from God. He can handle all of our feelings, and he wants us to bring them to him. If you're struggling to understand or recognize the source of your anger, talking to someone else about it is another great place to begin. And the last thing you can do is own your part. This one is hard because honestly, we all want to be angry at someone else for something else. We're mad because we're out of control, but there's one thing that we can control, and that's ourselves. Maybe someone hurt us, but then we said something to hurt them back. Maybe something bad happened, but when we did something bad in response. Those things done or said in anger, we have to own them. We have to take responsibility for those things too in order to deal with our anger.